2020 was a weird year, and before I even knew how weird it was about to get, it started off on a bad foot. I don't know where exactly to start this story. I guess the crash really started when I got mumps in December.
My swelling has gone down a lot, but it's still, there's still a bit of a boy there.
So I was in bed recovering from that for about a week, and then it was Christmas and I rallied and I tried to celebrate as much as I could. But right afterwards I crashed hard and I didn't get well for 3 months. I get sick, it happens, and I have crashes and I go to bed for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. It's a facet of my life. It's part of having this illness that I have, but this was a really, really hard, significant crash. It went on a very long time. It was a crash that really kind of shook me mentally and physically and kind of reset me in terms of my desire to deal with my health in a more long-term way. I'm a pretty mentally strong person, and when people talk about being mentally strong, they talk about it sometimes like it's a virtue or something, and I don't. It's through no effort of mine that I'm mentally strong. It's one of those things. Some people are just born physically strong, quite resistant to illness, and I am not one of those people. But I do have a very inherently my brain chemistry is just set towards being more or less cheerful, 80%, 90% of the time, which is such a privilege. But this crash really, I mentally struggled a lot with it. I think because when it started, I thought it was just a little bit of I was still just recovering from mumps and it had only gone for a few weeks. So every single week I was getting more and more impatient, thinking it was about to end, and it just never ended. I was really stressed about it all the time. I kept putting off my plans and putting off seeing people for a week or so, and then having to continuously cancel. I felt like I had to be well quite soon. I felt like I had all these plans coming up and stuff, and I had almost a deadline, and I was constantly stressed because I was so sick. It was just going on longer and longer, and I wasn't seeing improvements. And I knew that around March, April, May, I had so many things coming up that I just wasn't going to be able for potentially, or that I needed to be well in time for. So I don't know, the whole thing just felt very pressured and hard. One of the things about this crash that was interesting was I was in the very early stages of a new relationship, and I was really impatient to get well because I wanted to be in that really magical space where I was feeling fun and go on dates and things, and I couldn't do that. I had to then decide to continue seeing her in the state that I was in, and it was very weird to be in that early stage and to then have to be super vulnerable and be hey, I can't go anywhere, do you want to come over? And I'll be wrecked, and maybe you could bring food because I can't do that. I have a very good support system, but I'm also quite an independent person, and I don't always use my support system. I don't always use the social connections I have and lean on people as much as I can. And it was interesting kind of learning how to do that. I think in the past I've been in early stages of dating someone, and I have gotten sick and then just broken it off because I was okay, I can't do this, this is not going to work, this is not going to compute, this is just an extra stress, I'm not doing this, because I didn't want to jump from being in the early stages of casually seeing someone and then just be okay, now you have to deal with me being full disease-ridden person. And this was the first time I've ever sort of been let's just keep calm and carry on. And it was nice and strange. At that time, one of my best friends was also in a new relationship with someone who, her girlfriend had also had going through a very serious thing and needed to be taken care of a bit. So it was funny, we were kind of on opposite sides of similar situations in our separate relationships, and we had a lot of conversations about how to navigate the weird dichotomy of the relationship not being that serious yet, but then having to deal with serious stuff. So yeah, January was just intense. It was weird to be starting out this new year on such a horrendous footing, just not feeling optimistic or enthusiastic, just feeling very stressed and not particularly hopeful. My mental health really took a toll. One thing that was really good though was that around this time, one of my friends was seeing this girl who works in a cafe right beside where I live, like literally just across the road. A lot of my friends and people who I know started going there a lot. I mean, and then my friend who was doing like kind of work there would like take a break, like take a cigarette break or take a coffee break, and she would just stand outside the cafe for 15 minutes and she'd call me and I would just get out of bed, literally put my coat on over my pajamas, go downstairs, stand outside the cafe, feel like I had a little bit of a social life, see some people, say hi, and then go back to bed for the rest of the day. I was able for just that amount, and it was such a great way of still feeling like I had connections with people.
Today was such a nice day, even though I was tired. I woke up to 3 or 4 texts and then was like, are you around to just like hang out, really low energy for like 15 minutes, I'll just drop in, I just want to see you. And another one was my friend asking if she could come over at some point later this week and make me dinner. I went to see my friend who wanted to drop in for 15 minutes. I went over and sat on the bench outside the cafe and we chatted, and like it was just really lovely. And she was like, listen, if you want space that's cool, but like I just want to make sure you're okay, and I said that you need, and you've been very social lately, and then just kind of complete dropping off the map might be a bit intense for you, so I just wanted to like be around. Which is so nice. This evening, this girl that I'm seeing came over. Yeah, like I think one of the reasons I sleep myself a bit when I get sick is because I don't know how to be chill around people. Like I'm quite high energy in company. Like I've always had nice friends, but definitely when I was younger I felt like the friends that I had kind of needed me to meet them on the level that they needed me at. Like I'd have to have energy, be a bit high energy, so I could like be who they needed me to be in any given situation, react how they wanted me to react, you know. This has been a weird crash and kind of dark, but I just feel more supported by just lovely friends and family and people than I have in any other crash. Like I'm feeling really ill lately, but I'm going to bed tonight. I'm so kind of happy. I don't know. It's amazing. I really don't feel like I'm alone in this crash the way I have in probably every other crash I've ever had of the same like intensity, and I'm really happy. And it's funny. It's funny to be so sick and to be going through such an awful crash, and yet to feel I should be going to bed tonight after like 3 solid weeks, almost a full month of being really sick. But I'm going to bed tonight feeling really grateful and really happy, and like I'm really living like a really blessed moment in my life. You never know what, like sometimes I'm sick and I'm thinking that the only way I'll ever feel happy is if I'm healthy. But like happiness is weird because I'm really happy now because there's loads of people in my life who are just really, I don't know, who I'm just really lucky to have. My body's really going through a time right now, but I still feel really, really lucky.
In February I went to stay with my parents for a while, and that was really nice. That was really good for me. I left all my phone and laptop and technology and everything in my apartment, so I went back to them and was just completely switched off, and I read like a book a day and spent a lot of time with them, spent a lot of time just sleeping and resting, but just being taken care of and switching off was really, really good for me. And I felt very, very stressed for like the first 6 weeks of 2020, and that really like was good for my head.
Hello, it's 10th of February. I feel worse than yesterday. I feel like it's not going anywhere, like I'm not feeling better at all, I'm not improving at all. It's been almost 7 weeks. Today I can barely walk. Like yesterday I was doing my Matsu exercises and I went for a little bit of a walk. I could move around a bit, but today I can't at all.
All in all, it was a very hard crash. It made me really reevaluate. It brought me to my knees. I think it was triggered by mumps, but it was also triggered by the fact that 2019, the second half especially, I really lost touch with myself, and I wasn't very, I don't know, I was a little carried away or chaotic or out of control or something. Not like physically out of control, but I guess I wasn't following my intuition at all, and I felt very overwhelmed and chaotic, and that never ends well. I think this was a crash that made me really, really listen to myself and really reevaluate. I have little crashes here and there, and they're not like big deals, and I kind of get over them eventually and kind of pick up where I left off and view the whole thing as a very like through a very medical gaze or whatever. But this was one where it really threw me, and it made me really realize something's not right. Something about the way I'm living, something about the choices I'm making is not working, and my life, like this isn't working. It was really hard, but very necessary, and it really made me really reevaluate, and it kind of made me desperate. And at the time I watched this very useful video, and it was about kind of how when you're going through a really rough time, like it's only in the really rough times that we really have the incentive to do the things we need to do and to make the changes we need to make and to do the evaluating that we need to do. I'll link it below. It was really helpful to me during this period. The crash made me realize a few things, made me really understand the need for consistency in my life. The way I see it, 2017 and 2018 were all about just like focusing doggedly on health in a very biohacking, do the work kind of way. 2019 then was an important lesson in letting go. I didn't really think about my health at all, and I loosened up a lot. I wrote a song lyric in April that went like, I've decided to stop overthinking, started praying, started drinking. And I think that kind of sums up 2019. At the end of 2018, I was going to CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. She basically said that I had too many rules and that I needed to break them or challenge them. Like I was really rigid with the sort of image of myself that I had had and that others had of me. And I wouldn't really let myself grow or change or like investigate who I was now because I was so attached to this idea of who I was that was kind of outdated and potentially very formed by like the experience of growing up sick as well. So I sort of decided to throw my idea of myself out the window and really just try everything new. So I dyed my hair quite dramatically for the first time. I started consuming alcohol and stuff. I was a lot more open to dating and relationships. I said yes to everything. I wrote a book. I made new friends. I just sort of got out of my comfort zone. And largely, I think that was a really good thing to do. I would say about 60% of it was really good for me and allowed me to accept and explore myself in a really open way and really move on from a lot of the fears and the neuroses and the rigidness that kind of comes from growing up with chronic illness, but also like maybe just being a bit of a people pleaser and a bit of a type A type person. But about 40% of it was me straying very far from myself and making an absolute mess in the process.
I've been very stressed out for the last
5 months?
It's just hard. I just feel a bit Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde about this.
If you look at my videos from last year, this is kind of alluded. I had an ongoing identity crisis, I think would be fair to say. But what was good was that all of this left no time to worry about my health. And I think that maybe so much of myself and my identity and my life and choices, it was so wrapped up in health in my mind that maybe I hadn't had all the constant identity crises that my friends had been having all along. So it was good for me to kind of do some of the catch-up work, I think. So yeah, a lot of it was really positive, but some of it was just a bit of a stretch and sort of put me in these weird, stressful situations. And I think it kind of made me feel less in touch with myself in some ways because I was so kind of trying on all these different personas, and that invariably leads to you not being able to take as good care of yourself or not being able to be as in tune with what's happening in your body, and that's how things I think started to get a little bit out of hand and like unwind a bit maybe. So that's sort of my theory for maybe why this crash hit me so hard and absolutely destroyed me for three to 4 months. I think the crash though made me reflect on all that and reflect on the importance of being open to change, which I definitely did in 2019, but not completely detaching from myself either, always sort of staying aligned as much as I can or sort of staying aware. I'm not into the whole constantly feeling peaceful and chilled thing as an idea. I much prefer that Joan Didion quote about throwing yourself into the convulsions of the world. So like I guess the thing is to have some structure, but only so that you can have a structure from which to embrace the chaos, if that makes sense. It's not so much about wanting to be in control all the time and to always have your life this wonderful bullet journaled rigid thing. It's more about staying in touch with your deeper self at all times amidst the convulsions of the world, which is something I'm learning to do, but I suppose I had to learn the hard way that it's not like decadent and self-indulgent to want to be in touch with your deeper self. It's like quite fundamental. If you don't do it, it's very easy to fall off and get sick and really get into a dark place. I think this is something everyone has to learn for themselves through trial and error, though I don't think that's something anyone can ever tell anyone. The crash made me realise how important social connections are too. I have really great friends and family, but I don't always lean on them, you know? Like, Having love in your life is one thing, and it's a very beautiful thing, but knowing how to use it and ask for it is a whole other thing. Letting people see me at my most crocked and least fabulous is still really hard for me even now, but it's something I'm trying to learn to articulate and ask for help with.
Cause you were sick as fuck, but I never needed anyone. Make me strong, run along. I never had a dream that was my own, yeah, you know.
To look for the silver lining. It was a really, really rough period, but it did give me a slightly clearer picture of what I wanted going forward. Mainly two things. The first was more structure and time and consistency. I wanted an expanse of time to get into a routine and rhythm with my body and mind, uninterrupted by events or travel or whatever. And the other thing I needed was to finally embrace the mental side of healing, as equally important as the physical therapies and food and medicine. I finally realized that I needed to be in touch with my inner self, work out what it is that I'm not releasing, and getting into a proper routine with meditation and ritual and those sort of things. But as I realized this, I was so stressed because I felt like I was working against a deadline. In January and February 2020 was already filling up with things to do. I wanted time and structure, but I felt like I couldn't pull the brakes, and I was afraid that not having time to fully heal might drag this crash out indefinitely until it was irreversible. I need not have worried though. Well, actually I should have been worried, but just not about being too busy, because the whole world was about to shut down.
You were sick as fuck, but I never needed anyone. Make me strong.